Hi, y'all. Who called Mortal Kombat? Let's just start there. Like, I'm gonna say this. You know, my husband and I watched Mortal Kombat last night, and I was kind of reluctant to watch it anyway because let's just say that like I really enjoyed the first one. Just Raiden was fire in the first one. Like, actually, Raiden was probably my favorite character in the first one. Sonya wins. It was just fire. Like the first one, right? And so then coming to watch this next Mortal Kombat, I was disappointed. I don't know how y'all felt. Hey, girlfriend. I don't know how y'all felt, but I felt a ways. Like it just didn't give me that same feeling that the first Mortal Kombat gave me. And I am an avid Mortal Kombat. Finish him. Mortal Kombat was one of my absolute number one favorite games that I played. I mean, Tekken, then I transitioned to Tekken. Now I'm into Far Cry and Call of Duty, but Mortal Kombat is still one of my number one games. So let's start there. That movie was not representative of what I wanted to look like. However, let me just say, Sub-Zero was fire. Sub-Zero was fire. And how they made Scorpion, get over here. I was like, yo. But then they waited until the end. Scorpion was so lit. Get over here. For all of those who play Mortal Kombat, and again, it was at the end, it was fire, that part. But do I think that movie is better than the first one? No, it wasn't. Jax, I'm really proud of the guy that was Jax because he was he played in the game, the TV show The Game, right? He was one of Melanie's boyfriends. He's a good actor. He's been in mad stuff, but I really dislike this one compared to the first one. So I just needed to get that out of the way before we get to this talk, right? I felt a way about Mortal Kombat. I felt really passionate about having to say something about it. So we're going to get that right on out of the way. For those who are unaware, I'm going to be looking over sometimes because I'm also streaming on Instagram and I'm streaming here. Today is the day. Oh, this is the nail. These are the nails for the week. Let's go. Come on, nails. We're gonna talk about people pleasing specifically. We're gonna talk about people pleasing. This may be an issue. Okay. I don't know why it's being weird, but okay. So we're gonna talk about people pleasing today. I want to make sure I say this first and foremost. At some point, I think that we all our intentions are to people please. Like we want to please someone we love or care about. Hello. We all of us have been in a space where we have wanted to please someone we care about, i.e., our parents, wanting to make them proud, wanting to make, them look at us in a particular way, wanting to make our spouse believe something or think something about us, our children, our extra family members, etc., etc. We've all been in a space where we want someone to believe something about us. So we please them in order to get that, right? To get whatever the intended outcome for us is. Okay. All right, cool. And yes, as y'all are entering, please tag a friend, share, like, subscribe to my YouTube page at The Barefoot Therapist. Okay. Always trying to remember to say that. Okay. Oh, total side note. Y'all, my baby, she's an Ivy. Go, okay? She is fantastic.com. On top of the fact that we lit in here, let me just show y'all. Let me do a panorama of my babies, okay? My babies. This is my office space, but see all my babies up there? Oh, my gosh. I'm a plant mom, and I love them so dearly. All right, so seriously. People pleasing. How often have you found yourself in a space where you are invested in someone else, thinking positively about you, wanting them to believe something specific about you? So you do something even though you may not really want to, even though it may be against your moral code, even though it hinders your voice. It has consequences, but you choose or prioritize pleasing them as an outcome that you want, right? We've all been there, done that. There is a very clear difference between it being a momentary choice and a lifestyle, okay? There is a very clear difference between it being a momentary choice and some of those momentary choices turn into lifestyles, okay? What is the difference? The difference is this. If your people pleasing has transitioned into suppression of your voice, that usually creates a problem. If it's transitioned into you not being able to be honest and transparent in a relationship, that usually creates a problem. If it transitioned into people being used to being the yes man or woman, that is a problem. If you have created the pattern of interacting as if you have no boundaries or very little and or don't say no, that's a problem. And it's usually not a problem for them. It becomes a problem for you. What does that mean? I'm going to give you an example. Let's just say I'm going to relate this to like work, to a job, okay? Because I've been there, done that, and even running a business, having to have boundaries with folks. And even in times where you want to say yes, sometimes you just cannot in an effort to get the outcome that you need, okay? Let's say you have an employee that comes in late, right? Okay, cool, stuff happens. Maybe I say to that employee, hey, you're late. I really want to make sure that you're on time. I do understand that things happen, but please be sure to be clear about the boundaries around time. Right? Now, I've said this. They come in on time the next time, or they come in late. At that point, there's a consequence. Hey, I mentioned it to you. You got a warning. This is the consequence for that behavior. Okay? And I could have said that the first time. All right, let's this along a little bit. Let's say I'm the fun boss. I value more that people like me than to get the outcome that I need in order to be productive in my job, right? Two different things. And I want to pause there. For a moment, we also have to consider your role, right? I'm going to use work for an example. It's nice if people like you and they get along with you, but it's more important that people respect you and they understand that you have boundaries and they respect the process. Being at work is not necessarily about being liked. It's about getting the job done, right? All of us are here so we can take care of our personal things and our families and ourselves, right? Because we make money. We're not here hanging out by choice, right? We're doing a job. First thing to consider, the purpose. Why am I here? What is it? What is the basis of this relationship? Right? First thing to consider. The other thing to consider is if I make this choice this time, how could it possibly impact me in the future? If I let you get away without even acknowledging that you were late, how does that impact how you will behave in the future? Or what I need from you productivity wise in the future. If I don't say anything, that puts me in a space to be catching up versus being proactive, right? I'm being reactive versus being proactive. Because before this person would have been late, I have a policy, right? It says it is necessary for you to be on time, for you to clock in on time, XYZ. If you're late, this is the consequences. I already have a policy in place. So this has already been discussed. Does that make sense? Setting the tone, setting the standard, right? There's the standard. What happens particularly with people pleasing is not that there's not a standard. The standard is I'm going to please. You're going to ask me something, whether I like it or not, whether I feel like doing it or not, whether it goes against my morals and values. I'm going to please. That is my priority. That is the standard. Does that make sense to everybody? So what I find is, I work with a lot of folks who say, I'm just so tired of people doing this and that to me. And I'm so tired of, people taking advantage of me. And I'm like, okay, so how did you get here? Well, what do you mean? How did I get here? I didn't do. People get so frustrated and angry with other people in response to what they've already put out in the universe, to what standard they themselves set. If I set the standard where every time you ask me something, regardless of what I have going on, when you ask, why you ask, I'm going to say yes, of course you're going to keep coming to me. This is the example I give to people. When they say, we're going to use money for it, I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, right? We're going to use money. Money is a big one. Well, so-and-so, they keep asking me for money. And I'm like, okay, well, do you always give them money? Like when they ask? Well, yes, but this time I don't have it. And if I say no, they're going to be angry with me. Okay, so what is the priority here? Is the priority creating a boundary and keeping your money? Or is it for this person to potentially like you? And I want to circle potential because it's not guaranteed and it's not long term if you're basing it off of this one-time experience. That they're going to potentially dislike you and disconnect your relationship if you don't give them this money this time, which is a potential for that. How are you prioritizing what you want? What I find with people pleasers is they prioritize the outcome being, I want to be liked. I want to be heard, which really, I want to be respected. I want to be considered. And in order for me to get this, I have to give you this. But is the price that you're paying worth it? What you're paying, is it worth it? Is it worth giving up your dignity, your morals, your values, your pride, your voice to possibly be liked? What is the impact long term? And we're talking about, I also want to acknowledge that there are sometimes decisions we make in short-term relationships that we wouldn't make in long-term relationships. That is just how it works, especially because we don't have to deal with it long term, right? If you're not in my everyday life or you're transitioning out or I'm leaving a job or something like that, maybe the choices that I make are different because you're not a long-term experience for me and the short-term benefit is worth it, right? People pleasing. Well, I find, and I'm kind of going to bring up some things that I hear people say fairly often. Well, I find that if I say no, people don't like me. Let me say this to that. Is saying no a complete sentence? Yes. I think socially we have normalized people explaining themselves. People don't owe no explanation. Underline, no explanation. No is a full sentence with a period at the end. Like, period. People don't owe us any other explanation. I think socially it has become the norm because I find myself doing it. I'm giving people explanations and they ain't even asked. And not that I even have to owe anyone one. But I find that I do it and I got to catch myself. No is a complete sentence. We've socialized this idea that we owe people an explanation for our decisions when they don't have to experience any of the consequences. No. I could see if this is like a spouse, husband, wife, sometimes your kids, and I believe in giving kids explanations so they can make decisions. That's how they learn how to problem solve. But that's neither here nor there. But we don't owe folks just well, I think of like what I learned a long time ago with work. And I'm using another example with work. I used to call, first of all, I wouldn't call out for work. And if I wanted to call out, I would have to have this elaborate excuse. Oh, I went into the hospital and it had to be a legitimate thing for me because I did not like calling out of work. But what I realized is, one, you can't take that time with you when you leave. Two, if you don't work there today, they're going to replace you with someone else. Three, I worked my ass off for that time. So I'm going to take it. I don't owe you no explanation. If the policy says that I have to have a doctor's note after 2 days or whatever, some policies say that, then I'm going to do it. But even with taking off, I don't owe you an explanation. I want to be off on April 27th, the whole day, please, and thank you. You don't owe an explanation. There are some things that you owe an explanation for, but I think more times often than not, we give explanations for things that we don't have to. We just do. And then when people don't accept the explanation, then we're frustrated. We didn't owe you one in the first place. People pleasing, right? I also wanted to be considered that it is much more challenging to say no than it is to say yes in some instances. Sometimes it is really challenging to say yes, especially when your morals and your values are on the line. You're doing something you really don't want to do, right? The possible conflict and confrontation that comes with saying no, right? It exists whether you acknowledge it or not. And you can handle it. Be confident in your ability to handle saying no. Because once you say no, yes, you do have to deal with the consequences that come with it, but that's okay. The same thing with telling people what you actually think. If somebody asks you what you think, please don't tell them what you think they want to hear. Tell them the truth. Are there possible consequences with that? Yeah. But what's the alternative? What is the alternative? And sometimes y'all will say, well, the alternative is, I would just rather not. I would just rather not. And that's okay. That's okay. But I think the other thing to consider is this. What are you doing to yourself by doing that? Who is the priority here? That's what I think the constant question has to be. Who is the priority here? What is what outcome am I looking for in doing all of this? For someone temporary in my life to possibly like me long term, when that's not even realistic, on top of the fact that, do I want them to like me based on what they thought I could give them, or me just saying yes? And if that's the case, how does that work? And is that something you can sustain? Because for you, it might be a temporary choice, but for them, it may be a long-term experience. Please listen to what I'm saying. What you consider may be a temporary choice, it may be a long-term experience for them. Oh, well, so-and-so let me borrow money this time. Cool. What do you think they're going to do the next time? People were surviving far before you came into their lives. They were fine. They're fine. They get it how they live. You may not like it, but they get it how they live. There is a reason why certain people don't have certain things, or they don't have certain people in their lives. That's not just the other person's choice, it's theirs too. Y'all know, if we want something or we want someone in our lives that bad, we're going to work for it. Bottom line. And if we don't, then we won't. Sometimes we don't know how to work for it, right? But sometimes it's just a matter of choice. Most times, I find that it's a matter of choice. People choose. They choose. The thing with people pleasing is this. And in your efforts to please someone else, consider what outcome you're looking for and know that it's not a guarantee. And if that is the case, are you still making the decision you need to make for yourself? Does any of that make sense to y'all? Does any of that make sense? Do you have questions? Are you like, Sade, you just talking shit? I don't know what you talking about. Does any of that make sense to you guys? And if so, What does that mean? Y'all keep forgetting I can do this. It's the coolest thing. Coolest thing. Any questions? Please ask questions. I want to get to y'all's questions because I don't like to just sit here and be on my soapbox as I try to do sometimes. What's going on? What do you have y'all ever been in a space where you found that you were people pleasing and it was detrimental to you? It created a problem for you. Anybody? Your people pleasing created a problem. It wasn't helpful to you, or it didn't bear the outcome that you were looking for. Anybody? Does anybody consider like what that means for you to have to sacrifice some of who or what you are just to get acceptance, possible acceptance from someone else or validation? All right, I'm gonna show this on the screen. Totally agree. Sometimes it can be hard. You have to stand on how you feel. Yep. If you don't, eventually it tears away who you are and how you feel about yourself. I felt like that at a job and it makes you miserable. Or shizzle my rizzle. Then the times I spoke up, I was ostracized. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier. We're not going to sit up here and act like speaking up for yourself doesn't also have possible consequences, because it does. And you just have to be prepared for the consequences because you'll be fine. Listen, using your voice is not always about being liked. I think that's the priority here, is using your voice, not being liked. Be clear about your priority. And I'm glad you said that. Do you think that people pleasing is a form of a person seeking validation too? Yeah, yes, I do. Now I'm going to say this. I don't think it's always for everyone. I don't think it's always everyone seeking personal validation, but I do think that most times it is. They want to feel valid or valuable to other people. They want to feel that their voice is valuable, and so they look for other people to validate it. And that puts you in what I consider a catch-22, because then you're going to be stuck in this pattern of seeking something that you don't own. It's going to be this pattern of seeking something that you don't own and you're not in control of. You are in control of your confidence. I'm not saying we don't need validation. And I want to say, and I'm glad you said that. I want to be clear about that. I think at some point we all need, at different points, we all need some validation. Hey, you're doing a good job. Someone acknowledging our efforts, our presence, and our personhood. Absolutely. But as a constant for you to be able to function and be confident in the world, no. For you to have successful relationships, no. A lot of that has to be independent of other people. It has to be. Or it's going to be this constant, rigmarole of you having to seek validation and you having to sacrifice your soul to get it. And I don't know about y'all. That's not something that I want. It's not something that I want. If I have to sacrifice that much, that's a lot. And it's a lot to ask someone to give up who they are and what they value for some consideration and empathy, or to be seen. That's a lot. That's a heavy price. There's a difference between having a voice and being loud and annoying. Sometimes it's better to love you or no one else will. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's where the confidence has to come here first. It has to. We have to be invested in us first. We have to, because I want to throw this out too. People can validate us all they want. If we don't believe it, it's not fun. It's for nothing. It doesn't go past them saying it out of their mouth. If we don't already have a level of confidence, one, either they're going to have to continue to validate us in order to feel pseudo confident, right? Or they're going to say it and we don't believe it anyway. Let's see. How do you feel about people-pleasing friendships? I feel like they're toxic and dangerous because it gives to opportunity to be almost predatory on a friend who wants abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely. But I'm gonna say this too, and I need y'all to hear me say this. I 110% believe that we protect people and we protect their love and we protect their personhood, but they are first the protectors of themselves. I can't take care of a grown ass person. If you're my friend, then we have to be able to be transparent with each other. And we also can call that friend out and say, yo, are you just saying yes to me and doing all this for what? Like, what are you looking for from me? If you want validation from me, you already have it. You don't need to just tell me what you think I want to hear in order for me to be your friend. That's not why we're friends. It is also our job to be transparent and call it out as well. Because sometimes that's how people are built and that's how they've been able to survive. It's people pleasing. I've been able to survive this long with just telling people what they want to hear. Nobody usually wants to know what I want to hear. Well, I do. We're friends. Whether you agree with me or not, we're friends. Whether we're on the same page with things or not, we're still friends. But I don't want to be friends with somebody that doesn't exist. Does that make sense? I hope that answered your question. Because I think it was a really great question. Because it can be really predatory. Why? It's funny because the person who isn't particularly pleasing and is being transparent could also be a predator. The person who is invested in power and control preys on the people pleaser. The person, hear me out. The person who is invested in people pleasing the person invested in power and control can really abuse and prey on the people pleaser because they know that's what they're going to do. And they know they're seeking their validation. So just something to keep in mind. If you see it, call it out, especially with friends. Like, we're friends. If we're actually friends, because we're going to talk about this whole friend word. That's another live. Let me write myself a note. Friend word. It's so abused. I've been trying to be more thoughtful and considerate about how I use the word friend, because it appears as if it is this like very transient, everyone I meet, we good. That's not ideally what I thought the word was supposed to be about. So that's neither here nor there. But yes and no. Yes and no. It could be seen as narcissistic, but I also think it's what's the word? It's convenience. Sometimes we just do things out of convenience, especially if it works for us and appeals to what we need. If the people pleaser is looking for validation, I can give you that. If I'm the person looking for power and control, I know I'm going to get that. You're going to get the idea to feel validated. I'm going to get the power and control piece. It works for both of us. Now, is it going to hinder our relationship? Could it possibly be toxic and uninviting and harmful? Yes. But are we both getting something out of it? Yes. So I just want to say that too. It's not always, someone being a victim. Both persons in those scenarios are in the scenario I just gave an example for. They're both getting something out of it. Both of them are getting something out of it. So just to consider, what would you be getting out of it? What are you getting out of it? How is that working for you or not working for you? Well, y'all, our time has come to an end. I really hope y'all enjoyed today. Please subscribe to my YouTube page at The Barefoot Therapist. Get you some products off my website, The Mahogany Project, projk.com. I have some more lives coming up. I'll be with y'all next week. Make sure you check out the podcast. Take this shit personal. Tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. And I'll also be having a personal exploration workshop. I pushed it back. So please check that out on my website. Sign up. I'll see y'all next Monday. Peace.